I never expected her to remember my name, let alone everything else. The first time I saw her again, it was at the laundromat on Maple. One of those weird off-brand places with humming machines and no background music, just the occasional clink of loose change inside a dryer. It was a Wednesday, no reason for it to mean anything, just another quiet day in a string of them. She walked in wearing a navy raincoat, even though the sky was just barely spitting. I was folding my shirts, and I didn't look up right away. But then I heard her, "Oh, hey, Alex, right?" She said it like someone picking a name out of a photo album they hadn't meant to remember. I nodded, a little slower than I meant to. Yeah, wow. Hi. I haven't seen you since your mom's birthday. 2 years ago, right? You brought those chocolate things. Hazelnut truffles. You ate 5. I laughed. You kept count. She smiled without answering and turned toward a machine, tossing in a mesh bag of towels. I kept folding. My hands were suddenly more careful with the t-shirts than usual. Her name was Lena. She used to come around when I was still living at home, college breaks, holidays. One of those friends my mom kept from her yoga class or maybe from work. I never really knew. I just remembered she had this way of making even the ugliest errands seem put together. Like she ironed the edges of her life. I watched her load the machine. Her fingers tugging loose a corner of fabric. Her knuckle brushing a bottle of detergent like it startled her. "How's school?" she asked. "Graduated." "Wow. Time." "Yeah." There was a silence after that. Not awkward, but long enough that I noticed it. She sat in the plastic chair across from mine once she started her load. I could feel her glance every now and then, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to keep looking. I kept my eyes down on the towel I'd been folding and refolding. "Still writing?" she asked. I looked up. "You used to write poems," she added. "God. You remember that?" She shrugged, smiling. "You read me one, at the kitchen counter. You said it was unfinished. It was terrible." "It wasn't." The pause between us stretched a little. Someone walked in, letting in a burst of cooler air, then left again. "I don't really write anymore," I said softer. "You should," she said. "You used to look different when you talked about it." I looked at her for a second too long. She didn't look away. Her eyes were warmer now, softer. Not like a friend of my mom's. Not like anyone's anything, really. Just there. Present. She stood when the buzzer went off. "Well," she said, slipping her phone out of her bag. "Guess I'll see you around, writer." I just smiled and nodded. Didn't trust myself to say more. 10 minutes after she left, while I was staring at the buzz of the dryer door turning, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. "Next time, coffee instead of spin cycle? No hazelnuts, I promise." I stared at the message. Then I stared at the name I hadn't saved, but definitely would now. I didn't mean to see her again so soon. I ran into her at the corner store 2 nights later. She was in line, holding a carton of oat milk and a box of tea. I was behind her with microwave noodles and a Red Bull. She looked over her shoulder and smiled like we hadn't just had tea 2 nights ago in her kitchen. Knees nearly touching, breath sinking for half a second too long. "This is a little sad," she said, eyeing my basket. "It's survival," I muttered. She waited outside while I paid. We walked halfway up the block before either of us said anything. "You always this quiet?" she asked. "Not always. Just with me." I shrugged. "You make silence feel like a real thing, not just space between noise." She gave me a look I couldn't read, pulled her coat tighter. It wasn't that cold. At her car, she paused before unlocking it. "You want to sit for a bit?" she asked. We sat in the parked car for 20 minutes. Just there. The rain started again. Barely. That soft, hesitant kind. Like even the sky wasn't sure. I watched her hands on the steering wheel. Slim fingers, no rings. She noticed and tucked them into her coat. "I've been thinking," she said, voice low. "Maybe this is just nostalgia." "For what?" "For feeling wanted. Or relevant. Or..." She stopped. I looked away, toward the blurred windshield. "It's not that for me." I didn't say it was. The tension was soft, but dense. Like fog. I wanted to say something clearer, truer, but I didn't know what that was yet. Then knock. On the window. I flinched. She rolled it down halfway. Lena. It was Claire, my mom's friend. The one who'd introduced them at a yoga retreat years ago. She squinted in at me, then at Lena. Something tightened in her smile. Didn't know you two were catching up. We ran into each other, Lena said. Calm. Easy. Too easy. Small world, Claire said, eyes flicking toward me again. You heading to Jen's on Saturday? I might skip it. Claire nodded, polite. Left without really leaving. Lena stared straight ahead for a long beat. Then, I should go. I nodded. Reached for the door. Stopped. Her hand was on the gear shift. Resting, fingers slack. I touched her wrist. Not hard. Just a brush. She didn't move. Didn't look at me. I leaned in, not far. Not enough. Just enough to breathe in the space between us. To feel what it would be like if I did. Her lips parted. Barely. But then she blinked. Pulled her hand back. Keys in. Engine on. Alex. She didn't finish it. I opened the door. Stepped out. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't have to. She didn't look back when she drove off. But her window stayed down just long enough for the air to remember me. It was one of those in-between evenings. Still light out, but the sun had already made up its mind to leave. She met me at the park. Said she just needed air. No plan. No hidden meaning. Just walking. I brought 2 coffees without asking what she wanted. She didn't complain. Just took the one I handed her and sipped it like it was colder than she expected. We walked without speaking for a long time. Leaves scraped across the path. A runner passed with music too loud in one earbud. You've been quiet lately, I said. I've had things to think about. I waited, but that was all she gave me. We stopped at the bench by the hill, the one that looks over the dog run. A beagle was barking at a pigeon like it had insulted its family. She laughed a little, soft and quick, then leaned forward, elbows on her knees. I ran into your mom the other day. That made my stomach drop in the quietest way. Oh, she asked if I was seeing anyone. I looked at her, and I said no, a beat, which wasn't a lie. I watched the side of her face, the way her jaw tightened, the way she wouldn't meet my eyes. You're not, I said, and it came out like a question even though I didn't mean it to. She turned to me finally, that same unreadable look. I don't know what we're doing, Alex. I'm not young. I've already had the big dramatic thing. The house, the heartbreak, the crying into Tupperware leftovers. I've done all that. I'm not asking for any of it, I said, maybe too fast. Then what are you asking for? Her voice didn't rise, but it landed heavy. I didn't have an answer, so I said the closest thing I had. I hate the way you act fine when you're not. That stopped her. Her mouth opened, then shut. I notice it, I added. When you laugh but your eyes don't. When you say you're tired, but you really mean sad. Her hands were in her lap now, one thumb tracing the edge of her nail. You're not the only one who notices things, she said. I waited. I saw you with that girl outside the bookstore, she added. The one with the red hair. You looked happy. Like maybe you didn't need me anymore. I wasn't with her, I said. I was waiting for you. The silence was longer this time. Long enough that the air felt changed. Her hand moved toward mine, then stopped. Like she wasn't sure who she was allowed to be with me. I wanted to reach back. I didn't. She leaned in just slightly, just enough for me to feel the pull, the tilt. But then she looked down. Do you ever think, she said, we're only doing this because it's the wrong time? She stopped texting. Not all at once. Just less. No blurry bookstore photos. No quiet jokes about bad oat milk. No little nothing messages that meant everything. I waited 3 days, then sent a photo of the pigeon from the dog park. Just a beak and rage. The kind of thing that would have made her laugh a week ago. She didn't reply. I didn't double text. I just started rereading old ones, wondering if I'd missed something. Maybe I had. Maybe it was the bookstore girl. Maybe it was Claire and the look she gave us through the rolled-down window. Maybe it was the question she left me with. Do you ever think we're only doing this because it's the wrong time? And maybe I'd answered wrong by saying nothing at all. The next Tuesday, I passed her on the street. She was with someone. A boy, maybe 11 or 12. He was holding her hand. She didn't see me, or if she did, she didn't stop. I watched her walk away, her stride a little quicker than usual, like she was holding something together. Back home, I searched her name and a few old photos came up. Faded birthday shots from my mom's Facebook. In one of them, Lena was standing beside a man with the same green eyes as the boy. My throat tightened. She never told me she had a kid, and somehow that made everything tilt. Not because I cared she was a mom, but because she hadn't said. I sat on the edge of my bed for hours that night. No music, no phone, just thinking. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. I wrote a message, a long one, not poetic, just honest. You don't owe me anything. I just wish you'd said something. About him, about any of it. I'm not mad. I just don't know where I'm supposed to be standing now. I stared at it for 15 minutes, then deleted it, letter by letter. The next day I went to the park. Same bench, same beagle barking at the same pigeon. She didn't come. I waited anyway, let my coffee go cold on purpose. I counted people walking by. 47. None of them her. A leaf stuck to my shoe. I didn't brush it off. That night, I walked past her apartment. The light was on. Someone was moving inside. I stood across the street, hands in pockets, not doing anything, not calling out, not knocking, just standing there, like I was hoping the window might open and something unfinished might finally spill out. She texted me on a Thursday. If you're free, I'm making soup. Nothing dramatic. That part made me laugh. Nothing dramatic. As if soup could erase the stretch of silence, the unanswered message I never sent, the way I'd stood across the street like a question mark. Still, I went. Her apartment looked the same, but something in her didn't. Hair pulled back, sleeves rolled, her voice softer, like she'd used it too much that day. Hey, she said, stepping aside to let me in. Hey, I echoed. The soup was already simmering. Something warm, tomato-based. I offered to help. She handed me a spoon and said, just stir it, gently. We stood there, side by side in the kitchen, like it was any other night, like we hadn't drifted, like I hadn't seen her with a child who looked like her, like I hadn't wondered if maybe I was just a story she'd needed to pause. I should have told you about Liam, she said, quiet, to the pot, not to me. You don't owe me. I do, she cut in, still soft but firm. Not because you asked, but because you were kind. And I wasn't. I nodded, unsure what to say. She leaned on the counter, arms crossed, not defensive, just held together. I had him when I was 28, right before things got complicated. I never wanted to drag anyone into that part of my life again, especially not someone who... She stopped, swallowed, who looked at me like I wasn't already tired. My chest ached in a strange, quiet way. I didn't look at you like that, I said. You still do. She finally turned toward me. Her eyes looked different now. Not older, just real, unmasked. I was scared you'd see the whole picture and walk away. And when you didn't, I panicked. Because I might have wanted you to stay. I didn't move, didn't speak. Just felt the moment rise between us, thick and hovering. I missed you, I said, voice low, more than I thought I would. She stepped closer, not all the way, just enough for her to be in reach if I wanted to reach. Then why didn't you knock that night? I looked down, then up. Because I didn't want to be another thing you regretted. She blinked slowly. Then, okay, just that. Then her fingers found my wrist. A light touch, no pull, no push, just presence. We didn't kiss, didn't promise anything. The soup burned a little. She laughed when she noticed. And in that moment, burnt soup, shared silence, her hand still lightly there. I think we both realized something had shifted, not toward resolution, Not toward romance, just toward truth. It didn't change overnight. We didn't fall into some neatly labeled thing. There were still gaps in the conversation. Still moments when I wasn't sure if I should reach for her hand or just sip the tea she made without asking how I take it. She remembered. No sugar, just a splash of milk. But the silences softened. We started meeting on Tuesdays. No name for it. Just the day that kept showing up. 8:47 a.m. usually, right after I left the co-working cafe, before she picked Liam up from his dad's. She'd text, "Bench," and I'd reply, "Already on it." The same one by the dog run. The beagle was still around, older now, a little slower. Still barked at pigeons like they owed him rent. We didn't talk much about what we were. We just became it. She let me meet Liam one afternoon. "Just as a friend," she said, like it needed a border. He rolled his eyes at her and asked if I played Switch. I told him I was terrible at Mario Kart. He grinned like that was a challenge. Sometimes I'd come over and read on her couch while she folded laundry. Sometimes she'd call and not say anything for a few beats, and I'd know she just needed to hear someone breathing on the other end. I started writing again. Not poems, not yet. Just lines. Snippets. Conversations I didn't know how to say out loud. She'd read them when I left them on her counter. One day she left a note in the margin of one. "This line hurt. I liked it. We didn't make big plans. Didn't talk about someday. But one night, after dinner, she handed me a mug of tea and said, 'You're staying, right?' Like it wasn't even a question. I nodded, poured more hot water over the leaves. The kitchen was warm. The rain was soft against the windows. And the quiet between us wasn't something to fill anymore. It was something we shared. She leaned against the counter, watching me stir. "Still think I make silence a real thing?" she asked. I looked at her, held her gaze. Then gently, almost without thinking, reached over and steadied the tilt of her cup. "Still do," I said. She smiled. Not wide, just enough. We stood there, not needing anything else. I used to think love would arrive with fireworks or speeches. But now I think it looks more like this. Two people in a quiet kitchen at 8:47 a.m., sharing a cup of something warm, both of them finally ready to be seen.